Okay guys, you saw the final result at the start of the video, so let's not waste any time and go ahead and get started. I just want to note that I do not have my face cam today because I am actually moving around my setup and everything, so sorry about that. Hopefully you guys understand. But to get started, let's go ahead and go into the movie clip editor, and then we're going to go ahead and open our clip. Now you can actually download both clips down in the description below, so go click on that link if you want those clips. We're going to open this movie clip right here. Get that open. The first thing I'm going to do is actually come over to the render properties and go down to color management, and we're going to go to the standard view transform so the colors are accurate. And then we're going to do a single tracking dot. Now if you haven't seen my tracking tutorial, the link is up in the top right now and in the description below, so make sure you go check that out. But basically we're just going to add one tracker marker, maybe two, but basically you just hold down control and then click. And I'm gonna click right here. It's just any area that stands out in the scene, like high contrasted areas. So I'm actually gonna click down here too, then hit set scene frames and prefetch. Those will just set the start and end frame for us, and then also make the playback as smooth as possible. Once we have both of those, we can make sure that both of these are selected, and then hold control and then tap T, and that will actually track the dots. And as you can see, these lines have formed, meaning that the tracking dots have actually tracked all throughout our scene, so that is what we want. We're going to go ahead and come to the stabilization tab, and then click 2D stabilization right here, and then tracks for location. Again, you just want to make sure that both of these are selected, and then hit this little plus icon, and that will add these tracks into the tracks for location. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and hit this auto scale button, and then come up to this clip display and show the stable. This will show our stabilized clip, and as you can see, if we zoom in the cursors and stuff, the video doesn't really move, so we know that we did it right. So we can actually come back here and show stable, turn that off. And so we want to make sure that we're at our first frame of the clip, and now we're actually going to do a quick mask that we will use for later. And so change this from tracking to mask up here, and then it's the same principle as tracking. You just want to hold control and then click wherever you want your mask. I'm going to make my mask to kind of go around the area I want to actually add the explosion. And so once you have your mask like this, all you want to do to close it up is to hold Alt and then press the C button, and you can see that it has closed up the mask itself. And so now we're actually going to pair it to the actual tracking markers. So I'm just going to press A, and that'll select all of the points in our mask, and then I'm going to shift and then click one of our points. I'm going to choose this one, and then hold control and then P. And so now if we play it, you'll see that our mask is parented to this little point right here, and this is what we want. Now comes the actual fun part of this tutorial, and that is the compositing. So if we want to come up here to the compositing workspace, go ahead and click the use nodes button. It pops up these two nodes. We're just going to go ahead and delete the render layers because we won't be rendering anything in the 3D viewport. And so we can actually hit Shift A to add, and we're going to do a viewer node. First, you can also come up here and hit the add button up here and search like that, but it's just faster. So first we're going to add the movie clip into our actual composite just by doing a movie clip node and opening that right here. And so if we see, this will pop up in the background. To zoom in and out, all you have to do is hit V and then Alt to V like that. And so now we're going to add in a image node. And this is actually going to be our image sequence. So if we want to go ahead and hit the open button and then navigate to the folder, again, link is in the description, the image sequence folder, then just tap the A button to select all of those, and then we can open the image, and you can see that it automatically sets a image sequence up, but if it does not for you for any reason, then make sure it is selected. Once we have that, we can combine them with a alpha overnode, like so. Put the image sequence on the bottom socket and then the movie clip on the top socket, and then I like to click convert to pre-multiply. This just helps with our alpha masking and everything like that. So if we want to go ahead and put this in composite just right there and bring this up here, and so now we can actually get into the masking and keying of the actual clip. First things first, we gotta actually stabilize our clip. So we're just gonna type in stabilize 2D. You want to put that in there, and then just open up the stabilization clip that we have, and you'll see that Blender actually moves it around a little, and so that is stabilizing our clip. And so now we're going to go ahead and duplicate it and bring it over here between the composite and alpha over, and we're gonna hit invert. This will basically invert the 2D stabilization, so it goes back to being the original motion of the clip. So now essentially we have this image sequence tracked to the shot. Now the actual explosion will move around with the shot like it's camera tracked. Now getting into the actual keying section, we're gonna go ahead and bring in our mask. So just do a mask node right here, and then select the mask we created, and we're just going to plug that right into the factor of the alpha over node, and let's give that a quick view to see if the mask works. You will see that it has this little section down here, and we're actually gonna feather that a bit. And so to feather, I'm just going to do a little blur, set the blur in between those, and I like to do a fast Gaussian with a 6 for both the X and the Y. And so let's see how that looks. Yeah, as you can see, the mask is kind of feathered. It's not a straight line anymore. But now we see that the explosion is still over some of the trees and everything. So to do that, we're actually going to key a bit. And so we're going to essentially copy both of these nodes down here. Just going to duplicate them to the top so we can see it better. And then we are going to add a math node and set this to multiply. So we can multiply the mask with the mask we're going to generate with this clip right here. And so to do that, you just want to add a luminance key right here, and connect those up. And we will view that real quick. You want to make sure that you view the matte option, and you'll see that it kind of turns it to black and white. But what it's essentially doing is keying out all of the low values and making all the very bright values stay in the shot. Now, depending on your clip, you can actually play around with the values, but for this clip, from my testing and everything, I find that this value works the best, like that. And then we're actually going to do another blur, so drag the blur up here, but instead of 6, I think I'm just going to barely blur it to a 1. So now let's see that it's kind of blurred like that, as you can see. And then we can just plug this final matte key into the multiply. And so now the multiply will take the values of both and only set them together, like so. Now that we have this mask, we can go ahead and put this back all the way down into the factor of the alpha over node. So you can just drag and drop into the factor. It's very messy, so if you need to organize some stuff to see, you can do that. And so now we have this, and if we go over to the alpha over node again to view that, we can see this is the result. Now you can play around with it. I might actually, instead of a 1, I might do 2. Let me test to see how that looks. Yeah, so that looks a little bit better, just trying to get a little more blur around the edges here so they're not as harsh. And so now, if we were essentially done with both the keying and the stabilizing, but now I'm actually going to do some quick color correction. So I'm just going to bring in a color balance node. I'm not going to go too in depth to what I'm doing, but essentially you just want to play around with some of the values and try to match it more to the scene. I think that looks pretty good for the sake of this tutorial, but if I wanted this to be a final render and everything, I would of course play around with it more. I'm going to scrub just a little bit more throughout the clip and see how it looks, if everything's tracked well and everything looks good. But I'm not seeing anything that's standing out. And so you just want to make sure that the stabilized 2D is the inverted stabilized 2D is plugged into the composite, and then we can go ahead and set up our render settings. So now we will actually worry about the render settings. So you don't have to worry about which render engine you're in. So I'm just going to leave it on Eevee. You want to match the dimensions and the frame rate. So mine was actually shot, I believe, at a 29.97 FPS. Start and end frame should be the same as you said earlier. And then we want to look at this output section. I'm just going to quickly select a folder to output this to. So I'm going to name this Final Composite, but you can name it whatever you want to name it. We're going to export this as a FFmpeg video. The encoding section, we're going to change this to MPEG 4, and then I like to change the output quality to high. Now with all this setup, you just want to double check that you are in the view transform standard. Normally it's set to film up, but you want to make sure it's on standard. And so after that, we can go up here and hit render animation. Okay guys, this is the final result that we got. I think it turned out pretty good. Of course, I was just kind of speeding through it, so if this was going to be in something that you're making, I would spend a little bit more time on it, trying to get that mask as perfect as possible. But anyway guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any tutorial suggestions, leave them down below, or any comments about how I did, if there's something else you would recommend, or anything. We're all trying to grow, so it's greatly appreciated. But anyway guys, again, links are in the description below if you want to download it, and I will see you guys later. Peace.